Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dunker Spot. We are part of 342 Productions. I am your host, Nekias Duncan, and joining me as always is my co-host, Steve Jones Jr. Steve, how are you doing, sir?
Aha, feeling good, feeling great, happy to be here, excited to be here. Thank you, Dunkers, for once again embracing your bounce. Dunker Nation, let's ride. YouTube, hi. You are important. Thank you. Nekias, not a total eclipse of the heart, but a great weekend. It's time to hoop it up.
It is indeed time to hoop it up. Fun weekend of sports and also sports entertainment. Quick salute to South Carolina for winning a title. We have another championship game going on later tonight as we record on a Monday, so we will dig into both of those games on Thursday. Quick salute to Don Staley in South Carolina. Quick salute to who all we got here. Cody Rhodes, we got Bailey, we got the Priest cash in for WrestleMania. A whole lot of things happen. Very fun WrestleMania weekend. We can also get into that on Thursday if you would like. But we are here to stress ourselves out and have you all mad at us. We are going to, with the week left in the regular season, check back in with all these award races. We're going to talk some MVP. We're going to talk some All-NBA. We're going to talk some Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to go through all the awards, see where we are at with the week to go. I would imagine with some of these, we probably have a little bit of wiggle room waiting for, the season to officially end, know where the standings land, all that good stuff. But this is our last crack at it in terms of the regular season awards. We're going to dig in, and we're going to start with, the easiest one to talk about.
Yeah.
The one with the clear-cut answer, you see. We're going to start with MVP. And can I just very quickly say, this, I guess this counts as a preface and all that good stuff, but I feel like every time we have one of these discussions, whether it's on our pod or during our watch parties, or if we hop on with JJ, we're always very quick to point out this is a tough race, because it is. There are a lot of good candidates, because there are. At a certain point, you either believe we're having the conversation in good faith or you don't believe it. That's okay. It should be, if we're all watching the season, we should all kind of recognize there are 5 or 6 names clamoring for 5 spots if you're talking about the actual MVP ballot. And you can make cases for number one for 5 or 6 different guys. Now, some number one cases are stronger than others, which is why we have the literal order, and we're going to dig into that very shortly. But we should all kind of understand the league is super talented, and that it isn't hate, or we all watch these guys. We all enjoy these guys. It's tough. We got to make tough choices. Steve and I think we see the game pretty similarly, but we do have different breakout points in terms of what we prioritize for awards and stuff. So that always leads to fun discussion. But ultimately, we shouldn't have to. We like your favorite team, we promise. We like your favorite player, we promise. This hoop talk is supposed to be fun. Let's dig into it. Let's have some fun. Anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest. My apologies.
Big bars from Nekias. Long-term dunkers. Nekias finally cut the promo on the MVP vote.
I was about to say, this is normally Steve that gives us the... Well, listen, especially, again, I make fun of Steve all the time. We get the coach of the year, and it's here are the 14 coaches that have really done a good job before getting into the top 3. And we'll get into that award as well. But I've said a lot. Let's get into MVP. I did not have fun putting this top 5 together. I did have fun thinking about it. Number one, I do have Nikola Jokic slightly ahead for number one right now. He is my MVP. I don't want to say it's easy to get bored of him, but it just feels like he just walks into 25 points and 12 rebounds and 8 or 9 assists. And it's not always the flashiest thing unless you are really keyed in on the passing, but he just hits you however he wants to hit you. Give you the low post buckets, score in the mid-range, the pick and pop threes. He'll grab and go. He'll grab and hit ahead, let those guys play ahead. And the Nuggets just mash teams when he's on the court. And at a certain point, it's hard to ignore the combination of the box score stuff, 26 points, 12 rebounds, nearly 9 assists, averaging a steal and a block. Efficiency is technically down from last year, but he's still insanely efficient, especially when you factor in nobody touches the ball more than he does. It's just hard to ignore all of the things that he's doing offensively, the growth that he's continued to display defensively, There's been a little bit of slippage second half of the year. But that scheme works in part because of what he does within the scheme. You know what the limitations are with him in terms of like a vertical leaper at the rim and things like that. But ultimately, without his general size, without the quick hands, without the awareness of space, like even him being at the level wouldn't work to this degree. And so I ultimately landed on Jokic at number 1. 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5 is kind of where or 5 and I guess 6 technically was really where I had the struggles. Number 2, I still have Shea at 2. And that's with all due respect to the second half push that we have seen from Luka Doncic, who I have third right now. And maybe that flips as we get, again, the last few games of the last week of the season, and we get some other numbers to stabilize, stuff like that. It stinks. Well, not stinks. But I think with the way that Luka and the Mavericks overall are coming along, and then this recent patch with OKC where one, Shea just hasn't been there. And before he was out, he was dealing with the quad injury and playing through that. It feels like all of the momentum is on Luka's side right now, and rightfully so. Once you get into 34 points, 9 rebounds, nearly 10 assists. Super efficient. When he is engaged defensively, he is tough to score on the block. When he's engaged, he's making the right rotations when he's the low man, using his size to challenge things at the rim or getting out, just funneling things inside. Like you see where Luka can be an effective defender, not an elite one, but an effective one. But the totality of Shea's season, what he has done as a driver, the growth we've seen with him as a pull-up shooter in the mid-range, where he's been super efficient there, the growth in the calendar year of 2024 as a pull-up three-point shooter, making things more difficult on defenses, what he's been able to do defensively. And he is someone that ultimately isn't going to make my all-defense team, but had performed well enough throughout the year to where he was in consideration for me. I think it's where the defense, the wins in particular, and what he's done for this OKC team that has also just, as someone who was high on the Thunder, they've kind of overachieved what they were supposed to do this year. I remember early in the year, we talked about the Thunder, and I think JJ posed the question to us, like, what do you think the ceiling for this Thunder team is heading into the year? And I said a home court seed, and that felt out there. And they are very much in the hunt for the number 1 seed right now. Like the Thunder are not supposed to be there with this team being as young as it is. And I think the biggest reason for that is Shea. And so with respect to the injuries that Luka and the Mavs have had to deal with, I do not want to ignore that context, which again, which is why Luka has moved up. He's at 3 when we talked about the MVP case a couple of weeks ago with JJ. I said, like, he has a strong case for 2. He has a strong case for 1 too. But like, he was very close to just flipping on my personal ballot based on what he's been able to do. But looking at the totality of it, what Shea's been able to do on both ends of the floor, the way the Thunder have won with him on the floor, the way that the Thunder have won the minutes with Shea on the floor, and having a larger gap there. I have Shea very briefly ahead, or very slightly ahead of Luka right now. Luka at 3. I have Giannis 4. I have Jason Tatum 5. But let me tell you, and then I'll turn it over to you. I know I've been talking a lot. I was very close to having Jalen Brunson at 5. I was closer than I anticipated with having Jalen Brunson at 5. Once you factor in just the degree of difficulty that Jalen Brunson has had to deal with the injuries that he's had to deal through. Julius Randle out for the year now. OG Anunoby been in and out of the lineup. And something that we've recently talked about, the amount of defensive attention that Jalen Brunson is getting now, getting more 2 on the ball, how the Knicks have kind of had to remake their offense in light of their injuries and the attention that Jalen Brunson is getting. But yet he's still been very efficient for his role. He's quietly grown defensively, still some size limitations. But the way that he's been able to show and recover when they're asking to execute that coverage, when trying to switch him out of matchups, the timeliness in which he gets out of there, he's doing the minor things he's supposed to hold serve as much as he can defensively. I was very close to having Brunson 5. I won't be surprised if I land on Brunson 5 at the end of the year. But right now, I do have Jason Tatum. I don't want to completely overlook. He has been, at minimum, he's been the best player on by far the best team in the league this year. But even looking at what Jason Tatum has been able to do, the drives continue to hit. The pull-up shooting has definitely come around in the calendar year 2024. But in general, he is a dangerous pull-up threat. This isn't the best defensive season of Jason Tatum's career, but he has been solidly a positive on and off the ball. And he's a part of Boston being able to play with matchups the way that they do. They will put Jason Tatum on the center. They'll put him on the guard with the intention of switching a bunch of primary actions. Like Jason Tatum has been very good this season. So I still land with him at 5, but 5 and 6 is interesting for me.
It's fun, man. Kudos.
It's supposed to be.
I'm glad you went first. And this is the fun. I know it's award season, which means it's debate season, which means it's discourse season. I like having the MVP conversation through the course of it and tracking things as they take place. And, I know the last few games can feel the heaviest. Some people can weigh the start of the season, some the middle. That's the beauty of basketball. It is subjective. Everyone has different values. The box score things may pop off. The standings may pop off. Defense, it's value to you. And I say this as someone who used to tell my father that Tracy McGrady, Orlando Magic version, or Allen Iverson, Sixers version, should have been the MVP all the time, because what would they do without them? But things evolve. Your thought process evolves. You value different things at different times. And you mentioned it. We're talking about some of the best players having some of the best seasons, and things are flipping as there's more information out there. There's more thought that goes into it. Different things are valued in a different way. It's still narrative involved, but hey, it's still subjective, and you're going to have to split hairs. And these are very tiny, tiny things that separate who is where and what do they do. Like, I look back to December, right, Nekias? And we kind of plotted out MVP, did a little check-in, right? I had Embiid, Shea, Luka, Giannis, and Jokic at 5. Like, I almost did not have Jokic on. And I had to take a step back and evaluate as I was thinking today. I was like, because I've had my 5 names locked in. I start with 15, 12, 10, 8. Hey, does this person have a conversation? I've had the 5 locked in. I'm very intrigued to see how the vote goes and what the split looks like, because, there's a lot of Shea versus Luka debate, and Shea versus Luka debate could just equal Jokic MVP. Because
judging by the recent ESPN straw poll that we got, last week? That's exactly what happened.
And so that's where it gets interesting. I always keep an eye on my mind on that. For me, I like to start from the bottom. I had Jason Tatum at 5 because I think what's happening is there's a lot of incredible statistical seasons, a lot of great box score things, historic things that we haven't seen before. I think that's easy for Jason Tatum's work to slide under the radar to some. The Celtics have won 62 games. And Jason Tatum is a huge reason for that on both ends of the floor. There's only so many guys you can point to in the last 3 seasons that have averaged 27, 8 rebounds, and 4 or more assists. And I think with Tatum, you got to look at the totality of, would Boston be this good if he played differently, if his numbers were different? Or is he doing the best thing possible for that team to have this level of success? And that kind of factors in for me. I wouldn't feel right not having Tatum on a ballot. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because that is it's a 62-win team right now with potential for more.
They are. I tweeted out a thread. They are 57-15 in the games that Jason Tatum has played in this season. They have won 79% of their games with Jason Tatum on the floor. Like, it is hard to, and that was, again, it ended up being one of the deciding factors in why I kept him over Jalen Brunson. Is like, injuries and roster context, you can wave away a 3-game gap, a 4-game gap, a 5-game gap, depending on like how drastic the injuries are. But again, we're 2 years removed from Jokic winning MVP as the 6th seed, because just about everybody was missing for him. It's hard to sneeze at. Tatum's won 57 of the games that he's played in, and Brunson's at 44. It's not that simple. There's context. We got like an hour and 15 minutes to talk about these awards. We can't get into literally every reason why. But like, it's hard to wave away a 12-game difference while Jason Tatum has also been really good. But continue.
So I have Tatum at 5 with the potential to go to 4 for me. Because right now, Giannis is 4 for me. The Bucks are not having the most fun time right now. I mean, I don't think we should. You should enjoy, some of the losses, even if it is April basketball. Probably not the best time to have we're watching film and having uncomfortable conversations thing come out. But
also not the best time for Giannis to be dealing with a hamstring injury.
Yes.
On top of this that needs maintenance. So that
yes,
figuratively and literally hurts.
But at the end of the day, no player in NBA history has ever averaged 30 or more points per game on 60% shooting in a season. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has the best mark, 1970, 1971, 31 points per game, 57% from the field. Giannis is at 30.7 and 61.1 from the field. I can't ignore that. He leads the NBA in points in the paint. He's shooting 77.5% in the restricted area on 11 attempts. And every team knows what he's going to try and do. They haven't been able to stop it. And so I think that's where you become, okay, do you value the team play of Jason Tatum or do you value the individual performance of Giannis? And that's where it can get tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the Bucks keep losing, they slide. Well, now we flip-flop. So it's like a paper-thin advantage right there. I have Luka at third. Again, you mentioned the push that he's made post-All-Star break, averaging 30 points, 33 points, 10.4 assists, 10 rebounds. First in the league in scoring, second in assists, which is incredibly tough to do. It speaks to just how important he is to the Dallas Mavericks and the position they have pushed themselves into. And every scheme you've tried to throw at him, he has an answer for. Not just by scoring the ball, but also creating and generating offense for Dallas. Mm-hmm. Making the right play, making the right read, making you feel uncomfortable, forcing you to double, forcing you to feel like it's not going to work. Then I'm mixing in a post up. And now, well, what do we do now? He's been incredible. I have Shea too.
Okay.
I have Shea too. And I think for me, Shea versus Luka is a fun conversation if you want to have it the right way. The thing for me is Shea in totality. I don't think you mentioned it, but I don't think anyone would have had OKC in this position earlier this season. And I think the one thing I hope people realize, whether you have Shea 2, 3, or 4, I want people to understand how important Shea is to OKC's success. Like, this is a team with a unique style of play. They drive the ball a lot. They cut. They keep pressure on you. Shea is a massive part of that. For him to lead the league in drives per game, to be able to consistently get those kind of paint touches and get in the paint and create offense for himself and others, to force help and start that drive and kick game or blend into it. And now he's getting a ball, another pass, and now he's able to drive. The counters he's come up with, to where I don't think a defense has necessarily nailed how they want to cover or deal with Shea. In the sense that, okay, we want to show help. He's countering with the pull-up. He's getting to a spot and letting it go. He's adding to the three-point shot if you want to go under or you want to help off of him. He's going to the post if you find a rhythm. And I don't know if OKC would be where they are if Shea hadn't played at this level. Now, you could easily say that about every single person on this list, but I think it's impactful. I think you really notice it when he's not when he's not playing for OKC.
Yeah.
And so I have Jokic at 1. And I think what stood out for me this year is you mentioned the consistency piece. You can just pencil him in for those stats every single night. And defenses have tried a whole bunch of different things. We're going to double on the catch. We're going to double on your move. We're going to double from the baseline. We're going to try and take things away. How much has it bothered Jokic?
I think that's what really stands out about this year, even though, again, this hasn't been the biggest statistical year for him. which is wild to say considering what he's actually putting up. But you watch, and what do? You send the double from one pass away, he dices you up. You send it from the baseline, he's tossing no-look passes to Aaron Gordon. You try to show early help, he can still dice you up the pass or score with you anyway. You say, hey, let's make Jokic a scorer, and he's putting his shoulder into your chest. I don't know what you do.
I think that last part is very important because, the whole bit was let's put a small on Jokic. And by the end of this year, do you feel like that's a good strategy?
No, it doesn't feel tenable to put actual smaller players on him. Like, this is why when we had the conversation with JJ about, hey, how do you defend Denver? Or even when we had our conversation on a mailbag episode, like, what do you do with this? The best I can come up with is the Minnesota plan at full health, to where we want Rudy Gobert as a roamer, but the guy that's guarding Jokic, it isn't a wing. It's Karl Anthony Towns, who is still best utilized as a 5, but he's playing the 4 right now. Like, it's another center on Jokic while having another rim protector roamer behind that. And not everyone can do that and hope that they could score at a rate to keep up with Denver. It's just tough.
And it's just the little plays where he's able to read the defense, the casual jump shots, just fine, I'll shoot it, cash. I can go HB dive if I want to. And now you remind you I can score. Catching and surveying the defense and seeing where everyone's at and just faking a pass. And, you reacted? Okay, cool. Now I'm actually going to throw it. Those type of plays is where it gets really tricky. It gets really tough. So we essentially have the same order, which that's salute to us. So I guess we'll open it up. I'll have a couple questions for you, Nekias.
Okay.
Before I ask those, I do want to give Jalen Brunson a salute. To be 4th in the league in scoring, career high 28.2 points, career high 6.7 assists. To do all that in spite of the injuries the Knicks have had and teams saying, hey, Jalen Brunson, we're going to take you away. And him responding with, actually, it's not going to be as easy as you think. That's been a really good run. So that's probably my little top 6. I'm with you there. I don't know if I have a 7 anymore. But when it comes to the MVP, how much of it is Jokic's greatness against Denver making this run and winning at this level? Like, if Denver was the 5 seed, do you think the conversation would be different?
I think if Denver was the 5 seed, the conversation would probably be different. Yeah. Like, I think that with Jokic having the year that he's having and with Denver as a whole, like, I think the most fun part of the Nuggets season this year has been them just firmly being a top 10 defense and what Jokic has been able to do within that. And again, I will note, like, this has kind of gone from, hey, is this the best Jokic has ever been, to, we've reached that portion of the season. Cool. But in totality, like, Denver's has been a top 10 defense. I think Jokic has been figuratively and literally a big part of that this year. If they weren't challenging for the 1 seed, it would, be understandable, because this has kind of felt like a let's find some stuff and make sure we're healthy by the end of the year type season for Denver. We see that very much with the bench in particular. We're not going to trade for another vet. These are the young guys. We're going to get them reps. And I think, within the lens of the MVP race, that certainly helps Jokic in terms of the on and off numbers. Like, I have the actual just Jokic on court numbers, in which the Nuggets, per cleaning the glass, a plus 12.5 net rating with Jokic on the floor. That is top. That is number 1 mark among the 6 MVP candidates that we've listed. Tatum at 11.7, Shea at 10.4, Brunson at 8.7, which was interesting to me. Giannis at plus 6.5, and then Luka at plus 5.9. Though I would imagine if, Clean the Glass had the date filter for that particular stat, I would imagine the Luka number looks better post All-Star break. But overall, he is 6th of those 6 guys right now. You get into the on-off, and the Nuggets still die with Jokic off the floor. And that's a large part because the bench just hasn't been able to hold up. Like, that's just been part of the Jokic thing. And so if we go just pure on-off, like, Jokic is running away with this because he's always going to have that gap. But yeah, the fact that it's been kind of experimental with the bench, the defense has still been this good. Late in games, Jokic plus Murray, they just become the most unsolvable duo in basketball. They're still in the hunt for the 1 seed without really being whole yet. or not feeling like this is they're firing on all cylinders outside of like the early stretch post All-Star break where it's like, oh, they've won 11 of their first 12. This is scary. They're here now. If they were 5, I would feel a little bit differently.
That's interesting because to me, I noticed in doing this how much I value or how winning does play a factor for me in these.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, wait, I have Jason Tatum 5th. And so I had to evaluate that. So I was just thinking like, okay, how does that work? And then you have, when it comes to Luka and Shea, right? OKC not just winning, but Shea's improvement in a whole bunch of areas and how important that is against Luka, who has done this for a majority of the season. And we've seen it a lot of late. And so that's where it gets interesting, where you're balancing the totality of the season against some of these numbers. And it's like, well, how thin is this advantage right now? Like, well, does Luka just need his team to win so he can win MVP? Is that the bit?
That's kind of what it's felt like. And that's, to Luka's credit, and to quickly give a hat tip to Mavs fans in particular, this is what the Mavs fans in particular have been yelling about. Like, hey, no, he doesn't have these wins, but it's because Kyrie's been out, Derek Lively's been in and out of the lineup, insert all of the injuries here, and then mid-season trade, which they get more talent in and they get healthier. Lo and behold, they blow the Thunder out and they just go on this run. And so there is an element of, we told y'all he's been doing this. And, as two people, we literally have a Luka video on the channel, like we see this, but like broader picture, I can understand where the win-loss just becomes an easy, okay, well, Luka's 6 or the Mavs are 6. That makes it easier to talk about Jokic versus Shea and then go from there. And like, even though I landed on Jokic Shea as 1-2, like, I don't think it's fair to dismiss Luka just like that without investigating what his circumstance has been. Like, the fact that they are a playoff team and have, or at least had, an outside chance at getting to 4, it's a testament to how good Luka's been. And it hasn't just been Luka spams a whole bunch of high pick and rolls and fills up the box score, and that's just kind of it. Like, the scoring profile has always been more diverse than what he's been given credit for. I think he deserves credit for adjusting the way that he has within this injury-riddled season for the Mavericks, toggling to more off-ball usage, being used as a screener a little bit more for Kyrie in particular, but being used as a screener a little bit more. Again, the engagement defensively hasn't been as consistent as I would like, and not as consistent as it was, say, during the Western Conference Finals year, when Dallas was just shockingly a top 10 defense. Like, well, no, Luka's just kind of doing his job. It hasn't been as consistent as that year, but you have seen when he locks in, he does his job. That plus scoring diversity, plus the playmaking, which speaks for itself, or at the very least it should. Dallas dealing with these injuries. Top 6 is incredible. Like, he has a legitimate case for one. I do not blink at all if he ends up winning the award. It will be a deserving win if Luka has it.
I think that's the fun of it. I would totally understand if you had a case for one for any of these guys, in all honesty, because they've all gone through different types of scenarios, different circumstances to help their team reach a higher level than many had expected to a degree. And I think that should be seen as more of a fun deal. You know what I mean?
If you had to list your top 3 in terms of what you prioritize for MVP, like, what would it be?
I mean, overall performance, winning, and then what's your impact? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, let's say like LeBron or KD, for example. I think they're having great seasons. I think if their team had won a few more games, this would be a whole different conversation. I don't have enough in that category to put them over some of these guys, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of ties to, and something you said, I wonder if people have their tiebreakers and just lean on it very quickly to try and get to the next part of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the defense is this, so Luke is here. Or, well, Shea has these players, so Shea's here. Or Jokic has already won, so Jokic is here. Like, I just wonder if that's just people just have automatic disqualifiers or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Like, it's interesting to think about because, like, naturally, we're all human. Like, we do want to kind of lean on what we know, what we feel comfortable with. But like, there is something to be said with a field like this. Like, now, fully explore this, and if you land where you land, then fine. But you probably feel better about it if you explored it all the way. Versus, this is kind of how I go about it. They fit in this box. Boom. Now, someone hits you with 3 counterpoints. It's just like, oh, I didn't think about that part. That's kind of tough. Like, even with that, like, there's still room for growth, and I think that's a very healthy thing. But like, you just don't want to fall into that box all the time where it's just, well, this is what I believe, boom. And you miss stuff. Because I do feel like, honestly, with Luka and Shea, I think there's going to be an element of disregard is too strong, but I think there's going to be a little bit of overlooking with what both of those guys have done / had to deal with. And again, like, I'm saying this is someone that has Jokic won, so it's not even be saying they're going to get cheated out of the award. But there is, I guess there's more respect that can be put on their MVP cases, even if you land elsewhere, I guess is where I'm at.
And it should. It should. I mean, what? Luka leads the NBA in Player of the Weeks. He's been incredible. Shea's been incredible. Jokic has been incredible. They've all been great. It's been fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's supposed to be fun, but I kind of feel for Luka though. I'm not gonna hold you, because I do feel like, again, the winning obviously helps, and the winning for MVP in particular should factor in. But like, I don't know if I want to be responsible. I do feel like there's a non-insignificant portion that saw Mavs record Luka numbers, and it's Luka's just filling the stat sheet. What does this really mean? And I don't think that's fair to him. And I think that probably hurts him a little bit as we get into the second half, where he's continued to put up the big numbers. And the wins come, and now it's like, well, now Luka's playing MVP ball. When it's like, no, he's kind of been here all year long. But now it's easier to see because it's attached to these W's and they're moving up the standings. But like, he's kind of been doing this. It kind of taps into an overall don't get tired of greatness thing that I've kind of been ranting on and off about for like the last 3 years. And I feel like a lot of those conversations happen with me when it comes to Giannis. He's getting all the run and dunk man stuff or whatever. Like, you mentioned Giannis and the scoring. Only one player has assisted on more 3-pointers than Giannis has this year. And I don't think people would know that without watching Bucks games, or at the very least just looking up assist stuff. It's like, I don't think people. Now, I'm not going to hop on the Giannis is a better passer than Jokic train that I've seen from some folks. Like, that we don't need to go that far. But like, even with Giannis, like, I don't think people talk about the passing enough. I'm not sure people really appreciate the driving craft that he has outside of him just being bigger and stronger than a lot of folks. Like, I think stuff gets. I just want everyone to appreciate everyone. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just naive of me, being sub 30 and all this good stuff. But like, these dudes are hooping, man.
They're doing great. Too much nuance. We must debate.
Let's see. What do you mean you didn't have? Yeah. So I don't know. Did you have closing MVP thoughts?
No. We can keep moving.
Okay. Well, as we're finish up with MVP, let's go into All NBA. Do you want to reveal your full team, your full 15, or you want to just go through the teams? I'd imagine we have the same first team based on how this discussion has gone.
My first team is just the MVP vote. So it's Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jason Tatum. Is that also your first team?
That is also my first team. Though similar to MVP, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of movement there at 5. Probably more so All NBA than MVP, but wouldn't surprise me if we get Brunson over Tatum for 5. Like, I had a similar thought with like Tatum and KD, though. That's kind of separated a little bit for me. 5th spot is more in pencil, where the top 4, I think they're just in. I don't see myself changing there. Who's on your second team?
Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, DeMontis Sabonis.
Okay, we got a little bit of difference. I also have a slight change from the last time we talked about All NBA. I also have Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, DeMontis Sabonis on my second team. I have Anthony Edwards on my second team. And sliding up from the third team to the second team is LeBron James.
So you have Ant over Kawhi.
I have Ant over Kawhi.
Okay. What flipped it for you?
I think for me, like one, I guess mix of Kawhi missing some games plus Clippers slide plus Anthony Edwards and the playmaking perking up during this recent stretch without Cat, the defense feeling more consistent for him. And overall, like this has been been a really good Anthony Edwards season. But like I have really enjoyed the two-way play of Ant. Like I think Kawhi has peaked higher, and we certainly saw that during the 26-5 stretch that the Clippers went on. But as they've tried to maintenance Kawhi a little bit, as the Clippers have slid some, scoring has gone down for Kawhi. I think it's gotten a little bit closer. Like I think it's going to end up being like more of a volume deal, complimentary for Anthony Edwards as we get towards the end of this. And then with LeBron taking over the Kawhi spot in particular, LeBron's averaging 27, 7, and 9 post All-Star break. The Lakers are 13-6 in those games. And in general, the playmaking and scoring load that LeBron is taking on with this Lakers group at this stage of his career, like that part doesn't factor in for me as much, but it's at least worth saying, like he is 40 putting these kind of numbers together. And the 3-point shooting has been really good for LeBron. I've really enjoyed his screening usage in pick and roll. The cutting, shout out Mind the Game. But he's really been filling gaps for what has been an elite Laker offense post All-Star break. And so that's where I have him second team right now. I think the game split between him and Kawhi is pretty much even right now. And don't know if Kawhi plays another game in the regular season. So this could just be his profile for the regular season awards. And with LeBron having an opportunity to, if he plays, so we'll see. Because we might get some fun stuff with LeBron this following week, or this closing week, since the Lakers are just locked into a top 10 seed. But he does have an opportunity to kind of build some of the profile for him. So I have LeBron slightly ahead of Kawhi right now.
Okay. All right. Well, then let me hear your third team, man. Because I'm very intrigued after the last third team that you dropped on this here podcast.
Buddy, I tell you what, people were not feeling Paul George as a selection. But Kawhi Leonard on the third team. Anthony Davis also on the third team. And then I had some trouble. Continue to have trouble, rather. Because again, we just talked about this recently. I have Steph Curry still on, but that's feeling closer to pencil than pen. But he is still on for me right now. Similar to what I said on the last All-NBA discussion we had, I'm just kind of in a pickle with Devin Booker, and like, is he going to end up being eligible? I think he's played 64 games as of recording. One of those was a 5-minute game against Detroit when he got hurt. So I think he's at 63 games. He needs 2 more. The Suns are playing the Clippers in back-to-back days. They're playing Tuesday and Wednesday. So like in theory, Booker could just be eligible by midweek or by the next time we record this podcast. In which case, like, frankly, I just feel better about the Booker season. Like, when he's been on the floor, I felt better about Booker than I have with Steph, Jaylen Brown, Paul George, Zion, etc. So, like, Booker's just on my third team if he qualifies. And I am anticipating that he plays on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I have Booker on the third team with Kawhi and Anthony Davis. Steph Curry's there. And so then I get into this weird Jaylen Brown, Zion Williamson, Paul George, gave even more thought to Wemby. De'Aaron Fox is right there. I wanted to get there with Bam, couldn't quite get there. Tyrese Maxey's there. Paolo is there. Like, I was just in a headlock before the pod. And to peel the curtain back as I got on to the recording to talk to you and get things situated, you could visibly see that I was in a headlock trying to figure this stuff out. So I have Zion in the 5th spot. We shout out the defensive growth. We shout out the drives. We shout out the playmaking. This has been the healthiest campaign of Zion's career. It feels ill-timed considering the Pelicans have also just been on a slide. which is unfortunate. But he has been, I feel one of the more dominant forces offensively in the NBA. And ultimately, he has been, like, I think he's been the Pelicans' best player. I think him improving the way that he has defensively has had a real impact on that defense, considering how help heavy it is. Him being better at being in early, him being able to close out cleaner, I think has helped make that defense as good as it is. Obviously, Herb Jones at the head of it, and we're going to talk about Herb soon. But slight edge to Zion right now. Paul George obviously right there. Jaylen Brown still right there. I'll give Zion some love right now.
Okay, I see you. I have Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton. I am just a firm believer. If you are going to go ahead and lead the league in assists, probably need to acknowledge you. 20 points, 10 assists, not easy. I'll throw it out there.
It is not easy. Like, the thing, it just feels like Tyrese's season has been kind of split in half. Like I said, Tyrese Maxey, I meant to mention both of the Tyrese's, so that's literally just a my bad on that part. But like the injury just really hurt him in what was already a deep field to begin with. And he also had like the is he going to qualify type thing, which I think he's just going to end up getting there at this point. And so he will re-enter the field. It's really tough considering the scoring / shooting dip. And then, still, like, teams are still going after him defensively. He's working harder on that front. But like that's where it's just like, he slid from when we did this at the beginning of the year where he legitimately had a first team argument for me. But calendar year 2024, it just hasn't been kind to him. It hasn't been his fault. Again, you can't guess for injury and how you react to that. But that's where he slid for me to honorable mention versus you are just on right now.
I got you. I understand. I got him in. Paolo is probably the toughest person for me to leave off. The Paolo, Zion, Devin Booker trio. If there was a fourth team, they would easily be my first three.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd probably go like Maxey and De'Aaron Fox or something like that.
Oh, some love for Maxi Kleber. We like that. That's pretty good stuff. How about that? That was a joke. It was a joke. A bad joke, but a joke.
Boo.
I'll take that. That's fine. Thought I'd slip it in there. It's a big no. It's all right. They can't all be winners. But let's move on to defense play. Did you have another All-NBA thought or shout out?
I was just going to say, don't be so defensive, man. Segue,
That's good. Defensive player of the year. Steve, I'll quickly reel off my top three. We can get into some discussion from there. I have Rudy Gobert 1. I have Bam 2. I had a a free throw question that you had tossed to me in my head as I was trying to sort through who's going to be 3 for me. As I was very much going back and forth between Herb and Anthony Davis. And I guess the Pelican spot. I don't know. I have Herb 3. As the best defender on what has been a top 10 defense all year long. Elite screen navigation. He's taken on the toughest perimeter assignment. Off the ball. It's been very important as a guy that can rotate down and challenge things at the rim, but also you can't pass the ball near him. And again, in a very rotation / help heavy defense, Herb's range has been very important for the Pelicans this year. Naturally, the Pelicans defense has been much better with Herb on the floor than with him off the floor. And that's with them bringing good defenders off the bench. Slight edge to Herb for me. Like, I will say very quickly, and I'll pass this over to you. Like, so much of the on-off stuff for Anthony Davis is just not kind. And just watching, I just don't feel like that's his fault. But like, I do feel like he's going to end up getting dinged for some of that. And then you look at what the Lakers defense has been post All-Star break in particular. It just frankly has not been good. There's only so many holes that he can plug on that front. But so Brow's right there for me, but I did go Herb at 3. Who do you have?
I had Bam Adebayo for chunks of the year. I think this is Rudy Gobert's year. I think with Minnesota having the wins they've had, the defensive success they've had, the ability that Rudy has had to defend in space and protect the rim, and the improvements he's made there, I do think it's going to head that way. I do think Bam Adebayo does a whole lot more defensively than people maybe understand or appreciate, and how important he is for the Miami Heat defense. That people tend to just say, hey, we love the Heat defense. I don't think they can score. Bam's a huge part of that. He's asked to do so much, whether it's anchor the zone, whether it's make multiple efforts, guard multiple positions. He's had to shape shift as the teams have moved around, and his importance has changed, and he's been so important. Go read Cooper Moorhead's article on the Bam case. Go ahead and read that. 3, I still stick with Anthony Davis. Mainly just because, and it's not a shot at Herb. Herb's been incredible. He was my 4 earlier this year. I think to be the backbone of a defense does have value. And I don't know if the Lakers are in this position if Anthony Davis is not having this type of defensive year. Which, it sounds weird considering they're right now in the play-in. But let's say if AD took a couple steps back, how would you feel about the Lakers? Where would they be?
Yeah, I would feel much worse. And even to that point, like I mentioned, post All-Star break, the Laker defense hasn't been good. They would not be able to afford that slide if AD wasn't doing what he's been doing all year, but particularly in the first half of the year where the Lakers defense was flirting around the top 10 range. So the fact that it slid to this, which is bad, but it is noteworthy that it has slid to this versus it's just been this all year. In that case, he just wouldn't even factor into this stuff.
But yeah, those are my 3. It feels like the year of the big.
Yeah. You mentioned Herb. Was there anyone else that you gave consideration to get into your top 3?
Victor Wembanyama, I thought about for a second. He's been incredible defensively. I can't get there for Defensive Player of the Year. I don't want to sound like another podcaster, but at a certain point, you do have to. I need a little bit more wins for you to be DPOY. I need a little bit more. No disrespect, I can't get there.
I feel you. To answer my own question, Wemby was also someone that I seriously considered. And we're going to talk about, I guess this would be the transition point to all defense. But I do get the argument, I think Zach Lowe in particular said, your games have to mean something. And San Antonio has just been at the bottom of the standings all year long. So the stakes aren't there, even though obviously everybody wants to win. But the stakes have been there. So I get that point. I guess I feel that more offensively. You can kind of feel, these games don't matter. We're just chucking up some shots type beat versus the defense. Because that just kind of needs to be there. The Spurs defending at least statistically, defending at a near elite level with Wemby on the court. That's eye-popping in and of itself. And then you watch the Spurs. And the way that he dissuades drives, one, you can just look at the steals and the blocks. He should not be able to get some of the steals that he gets. He should not be able to get the blocks that he gets with either hand, looking or not looking. Chase downs on the block when someone has moved him on the post, and he just sticks the hand up there and he gets the block anyway. He has the wow plays. But something that I've long admired about Rudy Gobert and what you can just clearly see with Victor Wembanyama now. Player on the perimeter gets beat off the bounce. There's no help coming from elsewhere. You just have a lane to the basket. Player drives, sees Victor Wembanyama, and now that player is on the other side of the rim. And he is backing out, and they are looking for something else. And it's just hey, man, he is already striking fear into the hearts of these dudes to a massive degree. And then on top of that, again, defending at a near elite level, per clean the glass, basically a 113 defensive rating with Wemby on the floor. They are 10.1 points worse with Wemby on the bench. And I guess that's kind of been the annoying thing for me when people push back with how can Wemby be in this conversation when the Spurs defense is bad. It's it is bad. It's not bad because of him. The bad stuff happens when he's not there, which should kind of aid his case. Versus there are reasons to disqualify Wemby for this award. I don't think the Spurs team defense is bad overall is the case when they are very good when he's there.
I feel it. Can I ask you a quick free throw?
Sure.
The Denver Nuggets San Antonio Spurs games. Did they do more to cement Nikola Jokic as an MVP, or did they hurt Victor's DPOY case?
Honestly, I'll probably lean the former. Because Jokic doesn't feel like one of the few people that can just get him. But also, it takes Jokic to get him.
I figured that out. So this is a very interesting conversation because I promise at some point in this podcast, I don't know if it was a YouTube episode or another audio exclusive only, I asked you, were you ready for Victor Defensive Player of the Year talk? And you yelled at me in the most Nekias way you could. And now look at you. Look at you now, boy.
I love the Rock reference. I think I said, like, I don't need him, like, skipping the line. Like, don't lie about the defense with Wemby. It's part of what I said. Like, there are still warts. Like, he is still trying to clean up footwork in pick and roll, though that's gotten better throughout the year. But he's still trying to clean up footwork there. This is why I asked you, is he someone you considered? He wasn't in my top 3. I'm not pushing the button for number 1. I would be clear on that. But he's insane already. But to the all defense point, would you like to reveal your first team?
Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, Herb Jones, Victor Wembanyama.
I see. This may shock you, but my first team is Rudy Gobert, Bam Adebayo, Herb Jones, Victor Wembanyama, and Anthony Davis.
Ha!
So we have the same first team. Now, what's
your second team, buddy? This is where we're going to have some fun. You want me to reveal mine first? I'll go first.
Okay. What you got?
Drew Holiday, Derek White, Alex Caruso, Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? Jalen Suggs, Derek White, Alex Caruso, Drew Holiday, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is the
boom.
Hooray, we agreed. Derogatory. Okay, very quickly. I would assume Victor Wembanyama is your rookie of the year. Is that fair to say?
He is. But wait. I'm going to pause it real quick.
Okay.
Just before we go to the rookie of the year, because you have a very, very definitive list of folks that you considered for all defense, which you can, if you go to a social media website at Nekias NBA, you can find that list somewhere. Who was the closest miss?
Closest miss for me, like I was deciding between the Nuggets guys. If you remember, like I made a tweet probably like 3 weeks ago at this point where I was like, I'm getting closer to Aaron Gordon being the Nuggets ref if there's going to be one. So like Aaron Gordon was probably the closest guy. And then after that, like not going to go through the entire list of all the candidates. This is the shortened list too. I'm not going to go through all of them. But as guys like I immediately thought about, like Aaron Gordon was one. Gave thought to Jaden McDaniels and Giannis. So that's just the forward list. As Giannis has perked up more second half of the year, but now he's dealing with the injury, so like that's also a thing. Like those two guys I thought about. Isaiah Hartenstein was another guy that I thought about. And if I want to name a guard, like just he may end up on like 3 ballots total. So I'm not expecting him to get real love here. But I will just say, like Fred VanVleet's been really good defensively this year. He's been a big part of Houston being a top 10 defense all year long. Like he's been a pest at the point of attack, and I think the help defense has been very important.
Okay.
And he's been a very important communicator for them as they switched a lot more post Şengün being out. And so like I think Fred deserves some love. I do not anticipate him actually making a team. He didn't make mine, and I don't have a vote. But I did want to give him some love there. And I have other guys on the list, but again, I'm not going to go through literally everyone I'm considering.
Okay. So back to Rookie of the Year. Okay. We can agree. Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, Brandon Miller. Dap me up.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Get the hand up here. Yeah. All right, very cool. Now, the all rookie teams, which I believe there's no game played minimum for the all rookie teams. So you can kind of go wherever you want there. How much fun did you have thinking about the all rookie teams, first and foremost?
It got interesting because you kind of balance out the season. Like I think about names like Bilal Coulibaly, who I had in. And you think about some of the guys who have perked late, some lineup changes, some movement. It got fun. And then once I settled on my 10, I looked at what I had in December and I was like, oh, well, that didn't change much, huh, Steve? So my first team is obviously Victor, Chet, Brandon Miller, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and Derek Lively still. What's yours?
Okay. Let me pull this up. It's funny enough, I was going back to look at what my all rookie teams would have been. So when we talked about this in December, I had Chet, Wemby, Jaime, Derek Lively, and Brandon Miller. So now I have Wemby, Chet, Brandon Miller. I have Derek Lively. I have Pods as my last guy on the rookie team, on the first team.
Interesting.
I did move Pods up.
Okay.
I do think with Jaime getting hurt and then the 3-point shot cratering on top of that, on top of more teams saying, hey, actually, let's see if we can get him in space defensively. Like, I felt better about him off the ball than on the ball defensively all year long. But, like, post-injury, it's really felt like teams have said, hey, let's get after him. Like, one, it's a testament that he is legitimately in a playoff team rotation still. So it's a feather in the cap there. But, like, in light of Pods being better defensively, what Pods has done as a rebounder, the shooting being a little bit better, I leaned Pods. And, like, the on-off stuff will just favor Pods. Because he's been a very important connector to a Warriors team that's been looking for good lineups all year long. But Pods edged out Jaime for me, but like Jaime's literally the first name I have listed on the second team. So not like far and away, but I did have a slight shift there. Second team got fun though. For note, I have the 5 players for that team. And then if I can count, I have 7 names as honorable mentions.
7 names, huh?
Yeah. So again, I did not have fun with this. Like I did have fun, but I didn't have fun because that's a lot of people that could be considered for the last 5 spots here.
Let me get mine out the way.
Okay.
Cason Wallace, tremendous defensive season. I have Pods. I have Keontae George. I have Amen Thompson. I have Scoot Henderson. Okay. Who I will remind folks, the only rookie with a 20-point, 10-assist game. He's done it 4 times.
That's a good note. That's a good note. And very quickly on the Scoot note, like the passing really pops, man. With Scoot. Like I know we've reached hashtag this portion of the season with the Portland Trailblazers. So outside of covering the team or, we're just sickos. Like the passing pops for Scoot. And the pacing does feel better for him. And I will still say like the defense feels a little bit better than I anticipated it would be in year 1. So I will give Scoot some love there.
Which
I guess that's technically
which team do you have him on?
The third team. But on the second team, I have Jaime Hawkins Jr. I have Keontae George. I also have Amen Thompson. I also have Cason Wallace. I echo your sentiments. It has been a really good defensive season for him. And I just like the way OKC has used him offensively. Like he's been a spacer, he's been a screener. To have him in the dunker spot and he'll lift up or he'll just kind of lurk around to get some random offensive rebounds or get some dump offs. He's been good for that Thunder squad. The last guy I have is Trace Jackson Davis. I think the screening and the rim rolling has been fun. I think the defense has been better than anticipated. It's also been just important for a Warriors team that, again, has been trying to find it. And, not fair to compare efficiency from a big and a guard naturally. But like, if you want to split hairs on, okay, what's been better? Like he has been more efficient in his role than Scoot has been in his. Like part of that has been Scoot being a little, I guess, overall overtasked. Like they have tried to bring Scoot along a little slowly this year with just the guards that had the room in the beginning of the year and stuff like that. So don't want to hit him too hard. But I do feel better about Trace's rookie season than Scoot's. Scoot is a very high honorable mention for me alongside Asar Thompson, a couple of Blazers, Duop Reed, Tumani Kamara, both guys I considered, ultimately didn't have them on. You mentioned Bilal Coulibaly. Micic would count as a rookie, someone that I gave consideration to. Quick hat tip to Grady, though he is further down the list, as he really didn't pop off until really January onward. But a lot of fun rookie seasons. They can't all make an all-rookie team. Would you like to move to 6th man of the year, or did you have all rookie thoughts?
No, we can go 6th man of the year.
Okay. Who is your top 3 for 6th man of the year?
6th man of the year for me, I have Malik Monk as the winner. Mm-hmm. I think the scoring and assists that he's provided for Sacramento was really important. Unfortunately, got hurt, but love the season he put together. I have Bobby Portis second. I think his run was key to Milwaukee making the push before all of this happened. and his consistency off the bench has been great. I have Naz Reid third, and it's not because Naz Reid isn't good. It's not because Naz Reid hasn't helped Minnesota in a big way. I think Naz Reid has been very, 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 very good as a starter. And so I went old and musty and said, hey, that's great, but that's not Spirit of the Award. I did the same thing with Emmanuel Quickly last year. I got yelled at. It's fine.
Well, Steve, this is why you use the hack. Just very quickly, as Naz Reid has started the last 11 games that he's played in those games, he's averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds, still in the block. Yeah. He's shooting 43% from 3 on over 7 attempts. He has been very good. But this is why you use the Nekias hack, Steve. What you do is you go to NBA.com, you go to your filters, and you just go to bench. And then you only use the stats that players have accumulated when coming off the bench. And with that, I have Naz Reid number 1. I have him at the top of my fake ballot. I just feel like, one, we've talked about it on the pod when talking about broader Minnesota things. Like, I don't think enough is made of the fact that Naz has really improved defensively to this degree. Like, him not being a minus is huge for me, especially in comparison to Malik, who works. I think Naz has just had a better defensive season than Malik Monk. I think the playmaking has certainly popped for Malik when he was out there, and it really does think that he's likely done for the season. So I do think the scoring and playmaking blend for Malik is important. But what Naz Reid has been able to do, both as a scorer, has done so efficiently, shooting over 40% from 3. The rebounding has been there. Defense has been better. And then this could just be being the Galaxy brain thinking about awards type beat. You know how I feel about Six Man of the Year as a concept. Like, I don't think it should be the sort by points award that it has been for most of his existence. Long proponent that Andre Iguodala should have some. I was very much a Joe Ingles guy. The year Jordan Clarkson won, and on and on and on. So I don't really, that is not my thing. But one other thing I do hold on to, if you are going to be the most valuable 6 man in the league, I need your team to win your minutes. You don't have to have like an on-off differential, like the team is just better with you on the floor than whatever, because like the starters are supposed to be the good unit, etc. But you got to win your minutes if you're going to be the most valuable 6 man for me. The Wolves have a plus 7.6 net rating with Naz on the floor. This is per clean.
No, which lineups? Who's he out there with?
He's out there with other good players. That is fair.
That could shift the win the minutes deal, eh?
Yes, it could. I'm not saying that there's no contest that goes into it, but I will say Malik and De'Aaron Fox have also shared quite a few minutes together. Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis have also shared quite a few minutes together. But like when the gap is plus 7.6 and the Kings are just losing the Malik minutes, again, that's not all his fault. I'm not trying to say that it is his fault. But like that kind of adds to the overall, I felt better about Naz on both ends of the floor. And then it's plus they are winning with him on the floor on top of that. Versus this is just the reason he wins. I don't want to give off that impression.
All right. So Naz Reid is 1. Who's 2?
But I have Naz Reid at 1. I do have, honestly, I almost slid Malik, but like I was going to do that to him. Like he has been very good. And like and ultimately, like a -1 isn't super drastic. If he was like a -5, he wouldn't be in my top 3. The Kings are slightly negative with Malik on the floor, but in terms of total plus minus, they have won his minutes by 10 points. The Wolves, however, have won the Naz Reid minutes by 280 points by comparison. Those numbers coming from pbpstats.com. But like I had Naz 1, I have Malik 2, I have Bobby Portis 3. And then in my immediate honorable mentions, Norm Powell and Bogdan Bogdanovic have both been very good. Karis LeVert also factored in to my thoughts there. But those were the 3 that I landed on.
Okay. This face is preparing for most improved player. I'm getting pretty mad in my head. So.
I see. Would you like to reveal your top 3 or top 3 and or honorable mentions?
Why don't you go first, man? Actually, I mean, like, here's the thing, right?
Okay.
I'll go first. It's fine. I don't know what this man's about to say. But if you're a new dunker, I am a little annoyed with how most improved player has been shifted. Like, I like that there's more names involved, but also I feel like the spirit of the award's getting a little bit lost. where it comes. And, it went from, hey, we didn't think you were good or bad to this version of, hey, you're very, very good. We can't put you over here, but here's this most improved player award. Great job. I can't stand it. And I want y'all to know, I joked at the start of the season with Nekias. This was going to be Tyrese Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey, Alperen Şengün, and Scotty Barnes for the most improved player. I would not be surprised one bit if Tyrese Maxey and or Tyrese Halliburton is named the most improved player. For me, it is Kobe White.
For me in my house.
It's Kobe White. To be able to play at that level consistently, to boost the scoring from 8-9 to almost 18-19, keep shooting similar with more volume, improve the playmaking. He's been really important for the Bulls with Zach LaVine in and out. He's number one for me. Number two, Jonathan Kuminga. I think he's been really good. I think him finding his way throughout this season, that's shown a lot of improvement, a lot of growth. Number three for me is Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for the scoring to increase from Jalen Williams with the volume that he has, with the role that he has with that team, to go up to 19.5 points per game, shooting 54%, which is better than last year, and he's taking 4 more shots, shooting 43% from 3 on more attempts than last year, 4.6 assists a night, and they need that consistency every night. I go there. No disrespect to Heat fans. Duncan Robinson was someone who I had on my list for the majority of the season, but I don't know, outside of just being impressed by the wiggle, if I can get there, which has been good. The wiggle's been good. The playmaking's been good. The drive's been good.
I think if we had, this is just very much getting into Dunker lore, we had a most improved skill award, I feel like Duncan would factor in more than just most improved player. Though obviously there's obvious overlap to improving skills to, whatever. But I think his improvement as a driver is kind of what put him in this conversation. But compared to other candidates who've improved as drivers, but also as playmakers, and the shooting's got better, whatever. That's where Duncan kind of falls for me. So Duncan's in the most, he's in the honorable mention camp for me. Most didn't make it. But as you talked about how you feel about most improved and where the award is going, I will note that I do have a couple of names in the honorable mentions that would probably upset you.
Okay.
Tyrese Halliburton is one of them. Jalen Brunson, quietly another one for me.
Again?
He got even better. What you want me to do? Again, honorable mention, he's not going to make my top 3. But the pull-up shooting is even better. The defense has gotten better. You could also just look at the box score. The box score numbers are also better. He's someone that could factor in. Ultimately didn't make my top 3, but he's someone that I thought about. And this is why I said before recording, I know my most improved fake ballot is going to upset Steve. If it makes you feel any better, number 1 is also Kobe White for me. So we are in lockstep there. Echo your sentiments, his growth as a shooter. The drives are still really weird for me with Kobe White. But overall, he has grown on both ends of the floor. If you want to have a good time, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a deeper NBA fan than most. You want to have a good time, just go look at the clutch stats for Kobe White. Just knock yourself out. That's a good one. But no, quick salute to Kobe White there. I have Tyrese Maxey too, who honestly, to the Steve brain of it all. I do think if Embiid doesn't go down, he just gets the healthy run and continues to shoot 40% from 3 and drive all over the place and juice the transition attack and everything. He probably wins it. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if, the people with actual votes give it to Tyrese Maxey. But Maxey is 2 for me. Number 3 is a selection that will likely get me yelled at. Oh, before I even get to number 3, a guy that isn't even an honorable mention because he just isn't eligible, who would very much factor into this award, if not be number 1, Jalen Johnson would certainly be up there. A couple of other guys that I brought up in most improved conversations throughout the year that are also ineligible. Scotty Barnes is out. And assuming Alperen Şengün doesn't come back, he's also, So we will complete the Steve story there. But they are ineligible. Most improved, they do have the 65 game minutes, so they wouldn't have factored in. But Jalen Johnson probably would have been at least 2, if not number 1. But number 3, I've talked about him on the pod before. I'll be one of 8 people to talk about the season that he's having, which is fine. I think Denny Avdia deserves some love in the most improved conversation. Like, I really do believe, like, we've talked a lot about how good of a connector he is. I've made the joke that isn't really a joke, but a joke about Denny. Like, I can't wait to see him on a good team because I do think his complementary skills and the way that he processes the floor really would just gel on a good team that had use for him there. But just looking at the box score first before getting into some of the micro skills and stuff. 9.2 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 2.8 assists. That was last year. This year, only playing 3 more minutes per game, so it's not a huge jump there. 14.6 points, so over a 5-point improvement there. 7.2 rebounds, 3.8 assists. He is shooting 37.6% from three, Steve. Moderate volume, 3.1 attempts, same volume as last year. He's shooting nearly 38% from three. He's converting 56% of his twos. He's driving more and he's driving more effectively. I have been yelling for Denny to be more aggressive, more consistently. And the fact that he's been able to bump the volume up to this degree with this roster context. Again, we know the Wizards aren't that good. But for him to bump up the volume and the efficiency at the same time within all of this, I think it's very impressive. He'd be number 3 for me, especially in light of like some of the guys that aren't eligible right now. I do believe Denny should at least make your short list if you're actually voting for it. I would encourage you to watch some Denny Avdia. And he still remains a solid wing defender as well. So like if you care about the two-way of it all, he does that as well. So Denny would be 3rd on my list.
Okay.
Oh, we got the silent okay. Steve is about to let me have it during the watch party. This is going to be a good one. Let me tell you. Is that all that? Nope. We got 2 more to go and we can get on out of here. Coach of the year, Steve. Where did you land on coach of the year?
This is a tough one. Because one, a lot of coaches are doing a lot of very good jobs. And I hope they get their recognition and we stop making gimmicks and yelling and saying coaching doesn't exist or coaching is bad, or thinking that we can understand why things are done and why adjustments are made and all that good stuff. Won't happen, but a noble thought for me. My thing here is there's a difference. We have really good teams with really good records. We also have a ton of, we didn't think your team would be this. Mm-hmm. We also have a mix of, hey, y'all been through a lot, but you overcame. And that's where it gets nasty for me to try and whittle it down to 3. Because, I mean, just look at the Western Conference, right? Like, I give a hat tip to Willie Green for the job he's done with the Pelicans. They're in 7th. Mm-hmm. Look at what Phoenix has had to navigate with their big 3, trying to gel everyone together, trying to go through injuries. You look at the Clippers. They're a 50-win team. Like, you think about where they have been either at the start of the Harden trade, this stretch, they're a 50-win team. The Thunder have exceeded everyone's expectations and have been themselves the entire season, growing the right way, playing the right way, getting Shea going, getting Jalen Williams going, adjusting to everything teams are throwing at them. Denver's right there. Coach Michael Malone deserves all the credit in the world. Chris Finch, hey, yeah, we can figure out this Cat and Rudy deal, and we can also play defense, and we'll also go ahead and compete for the 1 seed. And then you go out east, and it's like, well, the Pacers are a lot better than people thought. Nick Nurse had to navigate now no Joel Embiid.
Sure did.
Tibbs has had the Julius Randle injury, the OG Anunoby injury. You look at our, JB Bickerstaff, what he's done in Cleveland. I hope he gets some credit for it. Or we're just going to deduce this to a Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland conversation when this team has gotten better offensively in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. My coach of the year is Joe Mazzulla.
Okay.
I think what he's done has been the eclipse hit. It's dark. Sorry, it threw me off. I'm like, what?
What the?
Anyways, I think what he's done with this team deserves more credit, to put them in this position, not just success-wise, but to integrate those pieces with Kristaps Porzingis, to get the most out of Drew Holiday and Derek White, to get continued improvement from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, for that team to be this good defensively and offensively. I think he deserves credit for that. Number 2, I have Mark Daigneault, just because I do believe that they have built this the right way and they have had a belief about them and continue to play their style of play. And then I have Chris Finch 3. Because, I mean, that is a lot to overcome as far as A, figuring out how to get those two to play well together. B, figuring out what to do once Cat is gone. But to get that kind of buy-in on both ends of the floor over the course of the season, be in this position, that's probably my top 3. I don't know if I love the order of 2 and 3, but I don't love not having Coach Michael Malone on this list. But that's the 3 I landed on right now.
Oh, understandable. Like, it's, to your point, like, it's tough. Like, there are a lot of good coaches doing a lot of good things within different roster contexts, different expectations. Like, I do think, to the Coach Michael Malone point, like, and this is something that I feel like kind of goes underrated with Eric Spoelstra, more so like during the Big Three era than like now, though it probably pops a little bit more now. But like, being able to maintain a title winning team is not an easy thing to do. Like, a lot of things can get hazy on and off the court there. And so again, for this to, circle back to the earlier MVP conversation we had with Denver, like, they're very much letting the bench grow. Like, Jamal's been in and out, especially as of late. It would have been very easy for Denver to be like the sleeping giant at like 6. And we just kind of understand, okay, well, they're just trying stuff. They're punting regular season wins for playoff viability, et cetera, and it's cool. Like, the Nuggets could just be the 1 seed with a better defense than last year. That's not an easy thing to do. So Coach Michael Malone was an honorable mention for me. Chris Finch was also an honorable mention for me for the reasons you stated. Top 3 for me, I have Mark Daigneault at 3. I have Joe Mazzulla 2, which I think, as I was trying to go through like all of my notes when we talked about Coach of the Year, like, Mazzulla's been an honorable mention for me. I think this is the first time I've actually had him in the top 3. And so I have Mazzulla 2. I have Jamal Mosley 1. A team this young is not supposed to defend at the level that they do. And as we've talked about their offense, again, like, statistically not very good, but like, watching what their spacing principles are and going back to the youth point, like, they are letting Paolo run it. They are letting Franz run it. They are letting Jalen Suggs do more things on the ball. Like, it's a lot of young dudes handling this offense, and you're trying to instill these principles on both ends of the ball, and for them to be in the legitimate hunt for the 2 seed right now, on the backs of, again, a super elite defense featuring a lot of young players, in which, like, Franz has size, and I think he's a solid defender. Like, Paolo has grown as a defender. I wouldn't call either of those guys elite. Like, your best defender is a third-year guard? Or at least of the high-minute variety. Because if we were just doing per-minute stuff, Jonathan Isaac is your answer there in terms of who's just the best defender on the roster. But you're thinking about the foundation of the thing. Like, is it what Jalen Suggs does on and off the ball? Like, that's not an easy thing to do. And then you add in the expectation point. Like, outside of me and Magic people, did anyone factor in Orlando as like a play-in, play-off team? Imagine not a lot.
You say outside of me?
I'm absolutely throwing myself in there. I was a year early on Orlando, for that matter. Listen, hey, you go listen to the episodes from last year. There was a lot of Bobo talk, but we talked about that defense. But either way, very impressive what Orlando's been able to do. I will give the nod to Jamal Mosley.
If Orlando finishes 5, you still gonna rock with this one?
Probably.
They finish 6, you still gonna rock with it?
Less probably, but like, I could see it still. Like, at the end of the day, unless the defense plummets, and they would have to get they would have to give like 140 to close out the regular season every game for it to fall to that degree. I feel pretty good about Jamal Mosley.
I do too. He's a great coach. I'm poking holes at this victory lap you just threw in my lap. I don't like that. Hey, how come Paolo ain't all NBA then, bud?
Because of the coach? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, all right.
He's in consideration.
Well, let's wrap up the buzzer beater with the clutch player of the year.
Okay. Is this the DeMar DeRozan award for you, Steve?
Yeah. You don't know why? The Bulls are 37-41 on the season. If you go to NBA.com in the clutch, the Bulls are 24-15. Guess who leads the NBA in clutch points per game? DeMar DeRozan / Stephen Curry. But DeMar DeRozan. So poof.
Hold on.
Boom.
It's a fair choice. I can't hate on it. Man, I could, but there's no need for me to hate on it. Question for you. How you felt about the clutch defense from DeMar DeRozan?
The what?
The clutch defense. You see, he scores a lot and gets big buckets on one end. How do you feel about what happens on the other end?
I feel fine. How do you feel about it?
Probably less fine than you, but that is okay because he hits the big shots.
So who's the clutch defender of the year, Nekias?
The clutch defender of the year? It's a Chicago Bull.
Ooh.
That'll be Alex Caruso for me.
He's the clutch defender of the year? So
he'd be the clutch defender of the year if it existed.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Feel pretty good about that.
Who's your clutch player of the year, buddy?
Prepare to be upset with me. I got Big Yoke. Nikola Jokic will be my clutch player of the year. Fourth in clutch points, fourth in clutch rebounds. Just outside the top 10 in assists. The Nuggets have won the clutch minutes with Jokic on the floor by 85 points. And the Nuggets are 23-12 in clutch games.
What are Jamal Murray's stats?
You want to pull those up right now? We can.
I'm asking.
Jamal Murray with 56 clutch points, which would rank 47th in the NBA. He is shooting 56% from the field, 40% from three. In those clutch times, plus 78 in 74 clutch minutes. 18 assists to 4 turnovers, also feather in the cap there.
Yeah, man, hit the horns, man.
Oh, but also, if we're bringing up Jamal Murray, I would also note that Kobe White leading the NBA in clutch plus minus. Vooch is second.
Think about what you just said to me. Think about what you just said to me with how you feel about
Vooch tied for second in clutch rebounds.
Nikola Vucevic. You go, okay, all right, man. No, you're gonna hit this up.
I would just like to note that he's we had some superlatives. We'll move those over to the Thursday pod. So we'll do a little chat interaction. If you have any fun awards that you would like for us to go through, in the notes among the awards, we're going to go through a Screener of the Year, Screen Navigator of the Year, Most Improved Defender. So we have some creative stuff. But if you have any other ideas for us to talk about on the next episode of the Duncan Spot, put them in the comment section. Beyond that, thank you for listening to and or watching this episode of the Dunker Spot. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us. We are on Apple, Spotify, Google. Well, RIP Ragul, I guess. Stitcher, Podbean. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. And if you are watching this on JJ Reddit's YouTube channel and you haven't subscribed to JJ Reddit's YouTube channel, do yourself a favor and subscribe to JJ Reddit's YouTube channel. We are here every Tuesday. That is the day after Monday, the day before Wednesday. But beyond that, lots of great content dropping on the channel throughout the week. So check it out. Don't miss out. You can follow me on Twitter at Nekias NBA. You can follow Steve on Twitter at SteveJones20. Join the Dunker Spot community. We're having fun discussions and sharing some pretty funny tweets in there. But if you would like to watch basketball with us, very important since the playoffs are starting in about a week and a half. So you might want to ramp up. You can do so via watch playback if you have a League Pass account. There we go. You can create a profile. It is free to create that profile. No shenanigans involved. You can watch basketball games live with us. Real-time analysis. We're breaking things down during commercial breaks. If we have fourth quarter or overtime antics, last second antics, we're breaking down what went right or what went wrong with the play. So if you want to have some fun there, or if you just want to, kick your feet up, let the hair down, just talk about all kinds of things going on in the world, music, food, vent about the job, relationship advice, that pops up quite a bit in the chat. So that's always a fun time. You can also do that with us in the room. The link to the room is in the podcast description. Once again, free to create a profile. You can come rock with us, have some fun. And with that, we will catch y'all later in the week.
Man, DeMar DeRozan has 2 less assists in the clutch than Nikola Jokic. What are we doing, man?